Alf, good morning. At time of recording, we've got Stranger Things Season 5 kicking off tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. Fired up to watch this with my daughters. It's been years since Season 4, and it is finally back. I am really fired up for this. We're going to talk today about, again, some economic stuff, some new info from our boy Brian over at Clear Value Tax. Make sure to check out his channel. There's a lot of good little nuggets in there. And again, just listen to him, listen to a bunch of other financial folks, tax folks. I think it just helps get a more well-rounded approach. We're also going to round out the video with some of the hottest cards in the PSA eBay store, so make sure to stay until the very end. Make sure to get $25 off your first submission over at PSA with the SCD25 code at the shipping and billing screen. All right, so Brian on his channel announced that on December 1st, which is rapidly approaching, we are expected to start the quantitative easing part of the monetary life cycle, the supply cycle. We're going to go to more of an easing as opposed to tightening, which we've been doing really over the last few years since 2022. We've kind of eased off of it a little bit over the last 6-7 months, and markets are trying to kind of price this in. They're still trying to figure it out because there's not consensus as what's going to happen at the December meeting. But what is believed to happen, and again, we can't see the future, is that there's going to be an easing as we move into 2026. What does that mean? When you ease and you lower interest rates, more money flowing out into the universe. Let's play a clip of Brian here explaining kind of what this is and what that could mean for us.
The money printing process again in 2026. And guess what? 2026 is right around the corner. So where do we stand? I want to show you. Here's what the Fed president in New York, John Williams, said in November, which went largely unnoticed by the public. He said that the Federal Reserve will soon need to grow its balance sheet again. And honestly, that's just a nice and fancy way of saying that the Federal Reserve will soon need to turn the money printers back on again. And he didn't say maybe or years from now. No, Williams said that I expect that it's not going to be long before it happens. So are we on track for the Federal Reserve to start their massive money printing again in 2026? And I'm going to take an educated guess and say yes. Now, I want to tell you where we officially stand. Quantitative tightening ends on December 1st. So that's not speculation. That is official, confirmed by the Federal Reserve. So I just want to clarify this so that we're on the same page. Quantitative easing is another fancy way of saying money printing. So there's a lot of ways to say it. There's balance sheet expansion. There's quantitative easing, QE. They all mean the same thing. They all mean money printing. And printing money, it floods the financial system with more money and with more liquidity, and it energizes the economy. Okay, but what happens if there's too much money and there's too much liquidity in the financial system? In that type of situation, you're going to have more cash chasing after the same amount of goods and services, and then prices are going to inflate higher. And if there's too much money in the system because they overprinted and we have soaring inflation, then how are they going to fix that? Well, the Federal Reserve, they're going to want to drain money. They're going to want to drain liquidity out of the system. And that's called quantitative tightening, which is the opposite of money printing. Okay, so QE is money printing and QT is taking money out of the system.
Okay, so you heard that towards the end where he's talking about quantitative easing. It pushes money out and it makes everyday products more expensive. Where could this apply to us in the sports card world? Well, I think it's pretty obvious. And we've heard there's $2,000 stimulus they've kind of floated out there that could go out to families. I don't know if that's $2,000 deduction off taxes, if that's just a straight $2,000 to everybody. But what kind of happened during the pandemic when stimulus money just started flowing out into the universe? Of course, we had inflation go up, and it took a little bit of time, but you saw it happening. And this is exactly what could happen here, where we see again where there's just money kind of flowing out into the economy, and people are just going to end up spending more on items. It doesn't mean that they are going to save it. It means that a lot of folks are going to take the money, assuming there is stimulus money, extra money in the system, and it flows out, and they're going to spend it on disposable stuff. Maybe it's trading cards, maybe it's not, but it could be a sign of what's to come, especially for new product pricing. Maybe it takes a little bit of the edge off for some folks if they're getting kind of stimulus, there's more money kind of coming into the system. Maybe they're like, you know what, I will buy into that break. I will buy that hobby box. I will buy that new product. I want to have some fun with my money, and it's going to go out into the trading card world, the world of sports cards. So it could very well be, as we've talked about on the channel, that really monetary policy drives a lot of what we see as far as higher prices on trading cards, especially new product, as we move into 2026. Now, here's the problem though, and this is where it's all kind of reactive. If inflation spikes, then what typically comes next? Quantitative tightening, QT, where again, they raise interest rates to try to balance this thing out. They raise interest rates to get money out of the system, get it on the sidelines so people are not spending money. I was talking to a guy, we were having a little bit of a debate, and we were just kind of talking hypothetically, and he was basically saying like, what would happen if they just gave every citizen $1 million? Every citizen $1 million. And when you think about that, you're like, you know what? That actually sounds pretty rad. They could just give us $1 million and everything would be great. But of course, what would happen then? It would mean that everyone has $1 million to go out and buy products with or services. and those products sell out at the current prices. So what then happens when they sell out at the current prices? The prices move up because there's more demand there for whatever that thing is. And so it kicks prices up. So that's where, we can't just print our way out of these sorts of problems. You could print $1 million, hand it out to each citizen, and it wouldn't solve it. It would just make everything that much more expensive, at least in the short term. So obviously the economy, monetary policy, it's all extremely complicated. I think that it's one of those things where a lot of us have talked about what are we doing in 2026 and kind of moving into this uncertainty. And for me, I'm really just taking a closer look at what I'm doing. I'll probably buy a lot more low-end cards, to be frank. I'm going to go back and buy more of some of the 80s and 90s cards that I really enjoyed as a kid. That's going to be more of a heavy focus, whether that's sports or non-sports. And living color cards. Let's go.
You just happen to be holding a match.
Hey! You're not gonna like that, are you?
Don't worry, folks. I'm a fire marshal.
And sure, I might pick up some like mid-end to high-end type things. For me, it's all relative in 2026, but it won't be a huge focus. It's going to be a little bit more conservative as we head into 2026. And I want to take a look now at some of the cards we've got in the PSA eBay store. And there's a good mixed bag here of lower end, mid-end, and we've got a couple of high-end cards that we will talk about as well. So I will go ahead and spin the camera around. Friends, have an amazing holiday week if you're in the US. I'll be back again with another video here soon. Welcome back, friends, to another episode of the Sports Card Dad. We're looking at some of the hottest cards on eBay and the PSA eBay store. We've got some doozies that we're going to be looking at here. And just a reminder that when you grade cards with PSA, sure, you can send them all home. You could send half of them home or some of them home. And then you could also send them to the PSA vault and then sell onto eBay. There's also a PSA offers program to where right as cards get graded, you might get offers on those cards right out of the gate. So liquidity never been better than it is now in the sports card hobby. It's wild just how quickly people can move in and out of cards, making grading that much more fun through PSA. All right, let's go ahead and fire this thing up. I wanted to start with a card from my childhood. These are the cards that I love. Now, would I buy this in an SGC 10? Not me personally. I would probably just buy a raw copy for a binder. This one, I looked at a recent sale in Card Ladder, sold at about $200 or so, going back a couple of months. So at $399, this one to buy it now is a little on the high side for sure. But this is just one of those all-time classic cards. And really, if you're in your 40s like me and you were growing up kind of in that junk wax era time frame, this is the type of card that really speaks to you. It's basic. I know it's not shiny. It's very basic, but just brings back all those memories. This is an SGC 10 copy. They don't have an OBO offer here, but maybe they do bring this price down at some point. And even raw copies of this card are just awesome. All right, what popped out to me right away was simply the patch on this thing. Look at the 76ers logo on this card. And this is a Drew Holiday rookie card, I believe. Yes, Rookies and Stars going back to 2009 and 10. But man, they don't make them like they used to. This is such an awesome card sitting here in a BGS 9 holder, and it is $325 OBO. I'm just thinking if you happen to be a Drew Holiday fan, this is one of those just really cool. I mean, the autograph, even though it is written kind of on that fabric, on that cloth, usually they're just always really streaky. This one isn't too bad, really. I mean, there's a little streak to it, but just the way that these things have to be signed is really tough. It is numbered out of 49, I believe, on the back, 31 out of 49. Just wanted to share this as a cool card for a collector, whether it's a 76ers collector or a Drew Holiday collector. Just really awesome card. All right, I know that A-Rod is somewhat of a controversial figure in baseball. He's like a love-hate relationship with fans, it seems like. These, of course, not licensed through Panini, but it's hard not to like Flawless, even though it's not licensed. This is 2017 Flawless Signatures Gold. It is a 9 auto. You can see that it's streaky there on the left side, but numbered out of 5, and it's a otherwise really nice card and nice A-Rod autograph. Even though these are not licensed, I know that there are a lot of baseball card collectors that appreciate these cards. It's at $259. Buy it now. I'm not sure if that's a great price for this card. It is out of 5. It is a BGS 9 as far as the card goes. That's a good grade for the thickness of the card, these Flawless cards. But you do have the kind of that Beckett 9 autograph. But otherwise, pretty cool card for A-Rod. I wanted to check in on the old 84-star 1 of 1, the 8, where they're asking $500,000. This one, it sold for about half of that, I think, is the recent sale, something like $250 to $275. So this is a little bit pie in the sky as far as the price point, but I guess it's just one of those cards where they're like, hey, make me move type offer, make me move off of it, type price tag. It is 33 and a PSA 8. The reason why the price goes up pretty dramatically is because you have 135 sevens, you have 33 eights, you only have 3 nines, and there's no 10s. So the nines are pretty much forget about it, trying to get one. And then that's kind of the next stop as far as kind of that highest grade version of this card. Outside of the 3 nines are the 33 eights. And maybe this person is just thinking, well, eventually people have to just succumb to a higher price on the 8. Maybe that's true. Maybe that's not. I guess we'll have to see how it goes as we move forward. Last but certainly not least, I wanted to put a spotlight on a guy that just recently passed away, sadly, at the age of 65, way too young. But this was a guy going back to my childhood, and this is just a great set. 86 Topps Baseball. It's Ryan Sandberg. This is a PSA 8, $25 OBO. These, of course, were printed very heavily, not a rare card, but I just love the image on this card, and I wanted to showcase just that you can get great cards, even graded cards, high grade, near mint copies, without having to break the bank. This one's at 25. Maybe you can get it for $15 or $20, depending on what offer they would take. I don't know. But wanted to highlight a guy that when I was a kid, I remember opening up packs of Don Russ, looking for Diamond Kings of guys like Ryan Sandberg. And, I don't know. It's strange. As I get older, I'm about to be 45 next year. You start to think about these things. I mean, he basically passed away only about 20 years older than where I am now. And that just does not seem like a very long time. So it's interesting, guys, but I wanted to share this just kind of, there's a lot of high dollar cards but you know what? There's tons of tremendous lower end and mid end cards that are just fantastic cards, so collecting cards doesn't necessarily have to be high end and all the things that are showcased on social media all the time. It can also just be stuff like this that, brings you back to when you're collecting as a kid and, puts a smile on your face. And that's what this card does for me. Rest in peace, Ryan Sandberg. Friends, I hope that you have an amazing day ahead. Make sure to get the $25 off your first submission over at PSA with the SCD25 code. Tell a friend who hasn't used PSA yet. The SCD25 code will get $25 off. I'll see you again next time.